One particular story I remember is I took a young man, I think it was my first trip, and we were standing on the Lincoln Memorial and it was night. And he came up to me and we were standing where Martin Luther King gave his speech. And he looked at me and he said, "Can you believe this is where he stood, Miss Stewart?" And I said, "No." And I knew that that impacted that young man greatly. Another kind of neat story was 4 years ago, we were coming out of the Holocaust Museum, and President Obama and his motorcade came by, and he waved at us, and I screamed like a 13-year-old who saw a rock star, and my students were flipping out because that was a really big thing for us.
My very first year, I had 9 kids, and we were on a bus with a bunch of different schools. And I remember so vividly driving past the Lincoln Memorial, and you could just barely see it, and one of the kids saying, "Oh, that looks like the back of a penny." And we all kind of laughed, like, yeah. And then when we actually walked up to it and she got to see the full frame of it, "Oh, that is the back of a penny." It's like, yeah, that's it, you know? And just that innocence, that excitement, I think about that a lot, you know? It can be stressful, it can be challenging to travel with students, but it's always worth it. And I just feel really lucky.
We're at the top of the hill in Arlington National Cemetery, and 2 buses come. And I'm wondering, why are these buses way up here at the top? Well, as people started exiting, I realized these are World War II veterans wearing the respective hats of their service. And I quickly assembled my students in front of those buses and had them stand in line. And it was me standing back looking at this moment going, we're having an encounter between 2 generations that was powerful. As there's this sense of appreciation and respect and honor for these military veterans. And it was a special time for them to shake their hands and say, "Thank you for your service."
Last year was really special. We got to lay a wreath for one of my students. His father had passed away a few years ago. He's a police officer, and he had passed away in the line of duty. And so we went to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial. And so our school was able to lay a wreath, and all the kids were able to get their pencils and their paper and inscribe his name and keep that. His name was Robert Barron. And so that was really special and very personal to the kids. And we showed a brief video before the kids went, and they were able to see the student's father. And so that's something that we'll do every year to kind of commemorate him and remember him and what he did for us. And so that was a really special experience for us.
My most favorite story was our first year. We took the DC trip, and we were at Arlington Cemetery, and one of our 6th grade boys had never, met his great-great-grandfather. And at this time, he knew his name, he knew his rank in the military, and lo and behold, we were able to find his grave site, and his great-great-grandson was able to take a photograph by his tombstone. And you're talking about at that moment, it was just a moment of, realization that this trip is just amazing, just by itself, amongst many others we've taken. But it just, it provides memories for kids that just lifelong, that you can never take away.
I think the favorite thing for me is sort of the feedback that you get after the trip. Just sort of one of those emails, or a parent will stop me, or I'll even see a kid later on that I had in school, 3, 4, 10 years ago, that come back and say, "Oh my God, that 8th grade trip sort of changed my life." It was the first time I was away from home, from my parents. It was something that really sparked something in me. And I think that's why we continue to do it, because the feedback from everybody that has been involved with this is overwhelmingly positive. And it's a memory for these kids. These kids, and again, I've done it 23 times. The 8th grade trip in our school district is one of the highlights of their 12 years, 13 years with us. And I think that's really what my favorite part of this is it's one of those things that they're gonna remember this the rest of their lives. And it's kind of cool to be part of that.